Hello, everyone, and welcome to Book Talk with Kara. And today I have a really special guest with me, my friend Robin Jones Gunn. And I wish I could have us all in a really big room where we could all sit together and have tea or coffee or something, and just you could bask in the warmth that is Robin Jones Gunn, because just a few moments with her and you would just really sense the genuine warmth that comes from her love for Jesus and spills over into her love for people. So this is going to be a really fun episode. Robin, thanks so much for joining me today. I am just delighted to have you here.
Yeah, what a lovely introduction. Thank you. That was really sweet. And I feel the same way about you. And just a few times we've connected in the past at conferences and such, and just that sort of kindred spirit. So I was
Yeah.
really excited when I saw that you had invited me to be on the podcast. Thank you.
Yeah, this is going to just be so much fun. I just know time's going to fly by. Partly because of the book that we're going to be talking about, because this is a new book for you, kind of the start of a new endeavor with your writing. And you've written so many books. How many books is it now? I mean, like you're in like the 150 club, aren't you?
Not 150, but over 100. So
Yeah, people like you, there's like this elite society of people who get over 100 books. And
they
I'm
survived.
Yeah, and I'm creeping up on 50 and going, I might make 50. And then you're like over 100 and they're like, how do you find new ideas when you've hit that plateau? But this book, Tea with Elephants, and just the title right there, like I get this picture. And then when you see the cover, and it's just so much fun because
Yeah.
you've got this sisterhood idea going again. But okay, before I spoil it, why don't you just tell us, how did you come up with the idea for Tea with Elephants?
I went on a safari. I had been on the board of directors for a ministry called Media Associates International, and they have a Lit World conference every 2 or 3 years, and they had two of those conferences in outside of Nairobi in Kenya. The first one I went to, I just really Kara, you
Yeah.
go to Africa, a little bit of your heart doesn't get to come home with you. So then the second time I went, the friends that I had, Kenyan friends that I had visited there, one of them particularly, Wambura, said, let's go on a safari after your trip this time. And so we gathered a couple other women who are in the publishing world, one of them a publisher from the Philippines, and Alice Kreider, that some people know, who's an editor based in Colorado, and Wambura, Kenyan author. And we we had this extraordinary time on the safari, and I always thought, I'm going to write about this, I'm going to write about this. Couldn't quite figure out how, when, where, and then this opportunity came to start a new series, The Suitcase Sisters, which is so fun. So the stories all focus on friendship and travel. And I knew the first story had to be in Africa.
I love it. And very early in the book, there's a scene where they're like, Africa. And it's just so fun because there really is, it's true that you go and you leave a piece of your heart there. I've only been once, and it was a service trip where we were working with workers who had come together right outside of Nairobi to be filled back up, and we were working with their kids. And I'll never forget, it's beautiful. There were tea plantations everywhere. And then at the end of it, we went on safari for a couple of days. And it was my idea of camping because it was glamping. And I'm like, if this is camping, I could do
Yes,
it all the time.
yes.
Forget, my idea of roughing it is holiday, and this glamping is awesome. But the idea that there are elephants and, zebras and things literally like right on the other side of this ditch that's supposed to protect you from all the wildlife. I mean, it was incredible. And so it wasn't just the people, because the people are beautiful and their hearts are just incredible. But then it was the landscape and the animals, and just seeing the diversity of creation was mind-blowing too.
100%. I
Yeah.
know. And there's a challenge to telling a story like that, because sometimes you feel like this is this meant so much to me. How can I express it in a way that will really touch the reader, even if it's just so outside of anything they would ever want to do? And what happened as I wrote the book is I felt like, women are the same everywhere. So to just really focus on that friendship and the women, and they just happen to be in this very extraordinary surroundings. And the story just kind of rose to the surface then of the value. And here's the thing, it's the importance of when we have close friends and we choose to be honest and vulnerable and really open up about what's going on, then the friendship deepens and we really can be that gift to each other to encourage each other or point out things. Well, maybe you're not seeing this the way I'm seeing it. And that's God uses that in powerful ways to change us and to grow our lives. So that's what the Suitcase Sisters will be about, different women. I'm working on the second book right now, so it's different kind of combinations. I did a series called the Sister Chicks, and it was the same thing. All 8 books have different characters, but it's that sweetness of the friendship and the deep value of being honest and open. And it just is a little unusual, but I understand it. You kind of have to be out of your normal routine and comfort zone. And if you're there with someone you really trust, it's like you just really have this freedom and openness that you don't necessarily have at home when everything's the same and you can just kind of put stuff under the rug.
It is really amazing how there's something about stepping out of the routine, out of the comfort zone. And one of the things about my day job is I've had really unique opportunities to go abroad for 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 8 weeks on study abroad types of situations. And you hit a point where you're not a tourist, you're not quite a local, but you're not a tourist anymore. And so, but you're not in your routine. And I think that's one of the reasons our kids are so close because they've been pulled out of their routine and all they've had is each other.
I
And
love that. Yeah.
yeah, and so it's been really cool to have those situations. But then I've watched it with my students too, that there's this unique cohort bond that comes when they come back to
Mhm.
campus because they've had 4 weeks in a place where nobody speaks their language or whatever. And that bond that comes because you're kind of stripped down. And it's not a bad thing that, like you said, there's this honesty that kind of rises to the surface because you don't have the typical busyness that we all get to, even when we're trying to get less stressed and everything. Life just gets busy. And even when we came back this summer we had 2.5 weeks in London and with students, and it was great, but there was that piece of me that didn't want to leave because it was like, and then life's going to take over again. But I knew if we
It's
stayed,
true.
we were going to have to put down roots. We were going to have to find a church and we were going to have to find, sports for the kids and all the things that make life busy here. So that stripping down it's not normal. It's not routine. You can't sustain it. Or I haven't figured out how to. Maybe you have, Robin.
Well, we kind of did when we moved to Maui, which was kind of interesting. That was about 13 years ago, and we lived there for a full decade, a rich, full, wonderful decade. And it was stripping down and saying, we're gonna have to rent. We're not, it wasn't like this, we have so much money, let's just move to Maui. It was like, we love the people of Maui. We have friends there from going so many times over the years. And our kids are grown and getting married. We can do this if we strip down, way down. And we're glad we did. And then because of my husband's health issues, we had to move back to the mainland. So we moved to Southern California where we have family and grandbabies. And it was the right choice and everything. But it was just that stripping down again, but we don't regret it. And I like for people to think about that. This is kind of a side note from writing
Yeah.
and books and everything, but just but the years really go very fast. You and I were talking about this a little earlier because I brought up that your 16-year-old daughter, I have a picture of me holding her when she was 2 months old. We were at a
Yeah.
book conference together, and like the richness of the friendships that go way back, but that every time you take that step to go out of your comfort zone or to travel or to move someplace and go, we'll figure it out, like the Lord meets you there. And there's so much value and richness to that because the years go very fast. So let that be an encouragement to anyone who's going,
Yeah.
well, once we get all our ducks in a row, you'll never have your ducks in a row.
Well, even that writing retreat that I went to where you were holding now 16-year-old, it was so uncomfortable showing up with a 2-month-old
Mhm.
because it was my first time meeting
Yes,
all of you. And yet I
yes,
was like, my choices are show up with the 2-month-old or not show up. And so I was
you
like,
made the
I'm
right
showing up with
choice.
the 2-month-old
Yes, yes.
because I need to be there. And I'm so glad I did. But I still remember that feeling of, oh my gosh, people are going to be like, what is she doing here with the 2-month-old? And nobody was like that. It was all in my
No,
head.
we're all like, let me hold her, my
Yeah,
turn.
exactly. And she was my colicky baby. And everyone was, I'll never
Yeah,
forget Karen Bald, just bouncing around with her.
yes, yes.
So,
Well,
okay.
and this is where it comes into the story
Yeah.
too, because with the characters in this place of thinking, I can't take this trip. We've been offered this gift of
Once
a
in a
free trip.
lifetime.
Why would I don't really even like animals. Like, why would I do this? But it's that taking the step. I know we often say this happened, and then God showed up. But Carol, I really think we show up. We're the
Yeah.
ones who say, okay, I'm out of my comfort zone. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know I can't control the situation, but God is in
Yeah.
control. And so I'm just going to show up. And the things that happen are amazing, life changing.
Yeah, I love that because so often we do. We wait for God to like roll out the red carpet and he's like, "Hey baby girl, look at this opportunity I've given. You just have to
Yeah.
say yes."
Yeah.
And so many of the most amazing experiences I've had have been I still have to show up and be like, "Okay, I'm willing to be uncomfortable. I'm willing to
Yes.
make the investment, but the opportunity's there."
That's it.
So so when you had this idea and you send Fern and Lily on this grand adventure, what were you hoping? I mean, there's friendship, there's this, theme of being vulnerable and taking the risk of being honest. And I think right now we need that so much because
Oh,
people
yeah.
still feel we're more connected but less connected than we've ever been in a lot of ways. So, what did you learn as you were writing this book?
I wanted to see these characters figure out some really common issues for 40-year-olds. These two women met when they were teenagers at 18 years old, and they went on a missions trip together to Costa Rica, and they were going to just go ye therefore into all the world, and they were going to change they were just going to every summer do this, and then life
Yeah.
changed things around for them. So it's been 20 years of their ongoing friendship, even though they live in different states, and they've managed to stay close. But then they they didn't go anywhere. Here's this chance to go to Africa. They go. So what comes to the surface? And what I learned was that for one of the characters, for Lily, they're in their little cottage the first night, they're talking, maybe it's the second night, and but it just comes to the surface, and Lily says, I think I made a really big mistake. And then chapter ends. But as it unfolds, maybe I should let you read it. But it's just what she is looking at in her life as, I made a bad decision, or this was not a good um way for me to shape my life. But then as the conversations go on, she realized that was God. He was
Mhm.
leading you to that. He's still with you. It's not that you made the wrong choice. It's what are the choices you need to be making now? Because you're different than you were years ago. And
Yeah.
so I'm very excited about that because I learned about that, kind of looking into that sort of commonality of, my life isn't turning out the way I thought it would. It must be me. I must have
Mhm.
made a mistake. If I had done this instead of this, then I'd be happier. But all lies. It's
Yeah.
just, where's the contentment? What is God doing in your life now? Are you showing up? Are you being present with what he's trying to accomplish in you? Um, so yeah, that feels like that's important. We need to talk about that in our
Yeah.
friendships, to in that honesty I was talking about, but to bring it up in a story allows the reader to kind of be like, okay, I'll read about it. I don't want to talk about it yet, but I'll read about it and see how this character came to a resolution on that.
Yeah, I love that because there are those kind of pivotal moments in our lives where we reevaluate and we kind of examine and go, how do I feel about this? How do I feel about where I am? Life isn't turning out the way I thought it would, or it's going great. and taking that moment to reassess and check in with God. We should be doing it all the time, but there are just kind of those seismic moments, big birthdays, things like that, where we go, okay, I'm feeling the passage of time. How am I doing? Where am I? And I think that for me, that idea of contentment, because I'm always like, okay, where's the next mountain? Where's the next mountain? How am I doing? And so that's such a good word, such a good word. So where are you taking the next book? Where are you writing? Can you give us a sneak peek?
I don't know if I can because it hasn't been officially
Oh, okay.
released yet, but it's what's interesting is that I had asked on social media on my Facebook page. So if I wrote about friends, characters going somewhere, where in the world would you like them to go? So when I signed the contract with Revell, it was for 3 books, and I knew where to take them because there were 3 locations. There were 4 locations that kept coming back. The fourth one was Iceland. I don't know that I'll ever write about Iceland. I've never been to Iceland,
Yeah.
but the other places were places I'd been and that I loved. And I thought, okay, thank you very much for you as readers telling me what you want to read about, because I want to write about that. And even more so if you're looking for a book in that location. So
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, stay tuned, to be continued.
Yes.
I will announce, of course, on social media
Yeah.
when the time is right.
I love that. And that's always fun when you get to kind of unveil it and tell everyone.
Yeah.
So when you're thinking about this, and you've had such a long writing journey, because you've been so successful, 100 books, you've been at this and you're one of the voices that could say, here's how to do it. What would you go back and tell your younger Robin as she's getting ready to start writing?
So simple. Just trust God.
Yeah.
Just trust him. Stop worrying or stop trying to be able to adjust things the direction you think you should go. Just ask him, trust him, pay attention, receive whatever he has given you. And you and I talked about this a little bit, Kara, that like this novel feels really, well, I didn't tell you this part. This is vulnerable. I'll tell you, my friend, vulnerable.
Yeah.
That it it's I have not have had a novel released for 5 years. I've had nonfiction books. I've had other books go back into print. I've done a lot. I've started co-hosting a podcast. So I've been working, but it almost feels like a first novel all over again.
Yeah.
And there's that sort of trepidation of, well, will anybody like it or get it or want to read it? Or I don't know. So it's not like, oh, I've written hundreds of books and novels and, I've been writing for so long. It's just that, again, it's trusting God and being so vulnerable
Yeah.
and being so open. This is the story you gave me, and I'm eager to share it with everybody. And I hope they like.
And every book is like you're offering a part of
Oh,
who you are to the
yes,
world and saying,
yes.
please like me. Kind of like Sally Fields. They like me. They like me. They really, really like me. Um, and there's just that's a real part of what makes this wonderful and absolutely soul tearing at the same time. So when
Yeah.
you're writing, do you write in the morning? Do you write every day? What's your writing rhythm look like?
When I started, our kids were really little, and my husband was a youth pastor. There was always something going on. I worked part-time. So the only time I could write was very early in the morning. And I read in C.S. Lewis's book, Letters to an American Lady, something that he had replied in a letter um, when he was asked, how do you get so much writing and personal correspondence done? And he said, something like this: I'm a notoriously early riser. I rise before dawn, make a proper pot of tea, and answer all my correspondence before breakfast or something like that. And I just thought, well, I'm an early riser. Maybe I should get a teapot and start drinking tea. And so I did. I went to the thrift store, I bought a teapot, I came home and I set my alarm for 3 o'clock in the morning. And I did that 3 days a week from 3 to 7. I could write. No one ever called. The kids weren't up yet. I didn't have to do anything else. Um, my brain was wide awake and I got so much done, and I became a tea lover because I was always trying different teas. And I did that routine or that rhythm for at
Yeah.
least 15 years or more. And then as the kids were older or out of the house or life,
Yeah.
changed as you're going through that right now, everything's kind of beginning to flux a
Shift.
little.
Yeah.
So there were, of course, a lot more hours during normal hours of the day when I could write, but it's kind of in me so that I still often get up maybe like 4:30 or 5 o'clock. It's been a while since I've hit a 3 o'clock.
That's just
But
so early.
I
Oh
know,
my.
I wake up and my brain is, it's the freshest thoughts of
Yeah.
the day. So I
I
go for
love
it.
that. I don't love the thought of getting up at 3, but I love that that's what's worked for you and that's your rhythm. So, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been so
Oh,
much fun.
thank
It's just
you.
delightful to get to spend time with you and to introduce you and Tea with Elephants to my listeners and watchers, because I started it and I'm already hooked. It feels like I've gone back to Kenya, and that was such a neat trip. I can't wait for readers to be able to join you on that. So thanks again for joining me, Robin.
Thank you. Thank you. God bless you.